Developers are pressing for a 3,000 house satellite development for Bristol at Buckover near Thornbury. The large greenfield site of over 200 hectares or 500 acres under single ownership makes it easy pickings for council planners trying to meet their housing targets. But residents are determined to save this valued countryside, with a survey by our MP, Luke Hall, showing 92% of residents saying no to Buckover. And it's not hard to see why. Public footpaths run through fields popular with dog walkers and hikers. This includes some of the last green spaces classified as best, most versatile land. This high-quality agricultural land is becoming vanishingly rare across the whole southwest region and needs to be protected for our food production. The ancient town of Thornbury dates from the early 9th century and has grown to a pleasant market town in a rural setting within the bowl of the Severn Vale. Together with its distinctive surrounding hamlets, it's characterised by views over the surrounding countryside of the Severn Vale and its escarpment. The adjoining land of Buckover is an area of visual importance where the agricultural land, deer parkland and ancient woodland of the Falfield Vale meets the visually important hillside escarpments of the Severn Ridges and the ancient woodlands of the Tytherington Ridge. The views and panoramas also contribute to the distinctive identity of the area in terms of the ecology, amenity, recreational and agricultural value. An unintended consequence of the Greenbelt is that it creates a new boundary, with towns such as Thornbury, unfortunate to be situated at the fringe closest to Bristol, now finding itself under a development onslaught from greenfield development on three sides. But being beyond the Greenbelt does not mean that the land here is not green and attractive. Much of it is more worthy of this description than the majority of land within the protected zone. When the greenbelts were designed, it was inconceivable that the demands of the urban centres would affect areas so distant as Buckover. The government allows for a reduction in the target level of housing where a high percentage of land is protected, and this is what the council should be doing. Planning permission has been given for over 1,700 new houses since 2015, representing an increase in the size of the town by more than a third. By March 2020, just over half of these had been built. But with almost no investment in infrastructure, services like doctor surgeries and dentists are becoming increasingly overloaded. The same can be said of the road transport system, with commuter routes such as the A38 under strain at peak times and the town's car parks inadequate to cope with the demand. These developments have created an urban bulge around the north and east of the town. On top of these permitted developments, the map shows two sites that have submitted applications for a further 850 houses, one of which was rejected on appeal but has been resubmitted in the latest call for sites. However, by far the biggest threat now comes from Buckover, just a stone's throw away from existing permitted development. This massive proposal would dwarf anything granted approval so far. Together with recent existing approvals, it would more than double the size of Thornbury, and even on a standalone basis, it would be larger than any of the existing surrounding villages. But it doesn't end there. Buckover could be a gateway development that would open the door for many more greenfield sites that have submitted an interest in the latest call for sites, all of which lay claim to the argument that if Buckover is approved, then it makes sense to add development on their piece of land as well. The scenario of a continuous urban sprawl linking Thornbury to Falfield at junction 14 of the M5 is now therefore a real threat. The latest submission from Buckover describes the area as not a valued landscape. We beg to differ. With more than 500 acres concreted over, we lose some of our most beautiful natural landscape. These are some of the signature panoramas that define our area. providing habitat to wildlife, including a family of roe deer that live in the ancient woodland and surrounding fields of Buckover. Fallow deer also thrive in these fields, which provide safe routes between the deer parks and ancient woodlands. The A38 already is a dangerous obstacle for them. More urbanisation would change their way of life. These animals are completely wild and not used to humans, but offer a chance to catch a rare glimpse of these wonderful creatures in their natural environment. The wheat fields in this best, most versatile land provide bread for our table tomorrow and nesting grounds for many birds today, especially for the skylark, whose distinctive song is the sound of summer for anyone enjoying these footpaths. Other iconic sights and sounds are enjoyed courtesy of the pheasant and the woodpecker, which join other protected and rare species such as bats, adders and grass snakes. The irrigation channels help to maintain the soil quality and drain into ponds that attract waterfowl and create perfect conditions for the protected great crested newt, which have been recorded here in ecological surveys. This is bad planning on an epic scale. The South Gloucestershire councillors and planners know this, but they're turning a blind eye to the problems. Building a new commuter settlement bisected by the busy A38 will put further pressure on the road network and undermine the government's promised preference for brownfield urban development and the council's commitment for carbon neutrality. In a Freedom of Information request, an internal email from a senior transport officer quite rightly highlights that they still have big concerns about the transport implications of this proposal. The A38 is still of concern. The submission shows this going straight through the middle of the development, which is the strategic alternative to the M5 motorway, and during peak times this is an extremely busy route, with holiday traffic often backed up through this area. The transport officer goes on to say, "I wouldn't pursue this on transport grounds, but this could be fudged if the other factors make this attractive to the council." Is there any evidence of this fudging already?
Absolutely. The issue will be the impact of extra cars on the A38 from a huge satellite development such as Buckover at a time when the council has a commitment to achieve carbon neutrality by 2030. As we get into the new local plan 2020, we can expect make-believe suggestions about how many people would use the metro bus or other public transport to go to work, when the previous census showed that only 2% of us use the bus in Thornbury. We've already seen one report commissioned on the impact of the A38 suppressed by the council, with all Freedom of Information requests refused. Next, we see the first consultation document make a bizarre claim that major new developments around Thornbury will reduce car dependency.
The influential think tank Transport for New Homes published a report in June 2020 which looked into the visions proposed for new garden villages and towns and compared that to reality. The main conclusion is that it looks like garden communities are to become car-based commuter estates. This would be typified by Buckover, where there's no access to high-capacity, high-volume public transport systems, and the proposed metro bus will not meet the needs of the community. The report goes on to comment that the councils need to think again about such proposals in line with the legal requirement to meet net zero carbon targets. This is mirrored in the government's statement on housing issued on the 16th of December 2020 that climate aspirations demand that we aim for a pattern of development that reduces the need for unnecessary high carbon travel. We don't need to concrete over our most precious land resources. The housing target for South Gloucestershire can be satisfied without destroying this. The combination of intelligent use of brownfield development opportunities and sites already given planning permission gives us sufficient housing to meet the government targets for the next 15 years. Give the message loud and clear to say no to Buckover.